First time I've ever been to a training event where we haven't taken technical classes, because we see a real need in this field for business owners, for garage owners. Like, I just have this heart for these garage owners and how they're navigating and how they're working 15-hour days and have huge backlogs of work and can't get it done and can't find good technicians. And in large part, some of these things can be fixed with how we're charging.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another exciting, thought-provoking episode of the Jaded Mechanic Podcast. My name's Jeff, and I'd like to thank you for joining me on this journey of reflection and insight into the toils and triumphs of a career in automotive repair. After more than 20 years of skin, knuckles, and tool debt, I want to share my perspectives and hear other people's thoughts about our industry. So pour yourself a strong coffee or grab a cold Canadian beer and get ready for some great conversation.
I mean, I feel like I've seen Bo and Caleb and you know,
Growing up.
yeah,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Your oldest, I feel like I haven't seen as much of him.
Sure.
But May, Caleb, Bo, like I you know,
I know.
it's crazy, and it's because I can still remember, you know, you had her at Latour's,
Yeah.
right? And you're filming this video, and I'm like early on going, look at this guy go, right? Like, he's at a shop, and I mean,
We were heading to Walmart to get some Legos.
Yeah.
I was making a quick pit stop.
right? Quick pit stop, film a video to help the students out, and I'm like, I'm sharing the heck out of this, going, look at this guy, what he's doing for the industry. So people that don't know, and you're not listening, if you're probably haven't recognized the voice by now, I'm sitting here with a really, really good friend of mine, somebody I almost consider family. Ideally, probably you could make the argument, one of the most influential people we've had in the industry in the last 10 years, Mr. Scanner Danner, Mr. Paul Danner, and do I say better half?
Better half for
You
indeed,
can say that.
absolutely. You can say that.
His lovely wife, Kristen Danner. So, guys, how are you tonight?
It's great to be here. I just am proud of you, man. Is this the first time we've done this together?
Yeah.
As you being
Yeah.
the podcast host?
Yeah.
I think it's awesome what you're doing.
We've talked a lot
Sure.
for a long time, and,
Yeah.
and you know, I can still remember you had an RV, and you had the air brake issue, and that was the
you were
first time.
clutch on that.
This was the first time, and that was like, my hands were shaking because you're like, well, here's my phone number. And you remember, I was like, I called you up and I'm like, dude, this is such an honor to talk to you. And you're like, and he was so cool. He was so humble. He's just like, oh, I'm just one mechanic talking to another
Yeah.
mechanic. I'm
Jeff
like,
is
Right.
the reason why we got home from that campground. For real. Like, I would not have been able to,
I remember that.
set
Yeah.
the depth correctly on that brake. I don't even know the names of
Brake
the parts,
chamber.
the brake
Yeah.
chamber, you know, without your help on that,
yeah.
you know.
And you'd kind of shotgunned apart at that. You'd put a brake valve into the dash.
I did shotgun apart.
I know. And I'm like, oh,
I didn't know enough about it, and I'm in a 40-foot bus.
I know.
That weighs 37,000 pounds. It's not like something I can just get
And it
towed.
won't build air. Yeah.
And I also know, you know, what it's like in this industry, and as far as accurate troubleshooting goes.
Yeah.
But I did mistakenly think the air valve was leaking because I heard so much air traveling through it that I thought that's what it was.
Yeah.
I just didn't understand the system well enough to know that, no, you got a brake chamber blown, which is why you hear that air flowing through that valve.
And it's sad, right? Because at the end of the day, if with a caging bolt and a pair of needle nose vice grips, you could have just pinched your line off, caged that thing, pulled the brake back, and you'd have been able to drive on.
Well, then I would be missing one brake. You know, but you know,
there's lots of trucks running down the road.
I know that
right now, missing one brake.
Yeah.
So anyway,
yeah.
So you guys have been under a lot of development lately, changing a lot of things up, right? And you and I kind of talked before we got on air today, because we can touch on the story real quick, and obviously we want to include you in the story too.
Well, I didn't want to do this podcast without Kristen, so I wanted her to be here.
But because you guys are kind of, I don't want to say heading in a different direction, but the goal is to slightly change. So we know your backstory a little bit, right?
Yeah.
But you started out at essentially the shop that is now James's shop.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then you left that. So when you started at that, when does Miss Kristen come into the picture?
She was in the picture
right from the beginning.
Right from the beginning. So I was it started. Shoot, I was working at a Pennzoil 10-minute oil change when I was a junior in high school. I took that job to take
Right.
a co-op program, so I didn't have to go to high school. I was like at work,
Yeah.
you know.
Did you have the Power Wagon then?
I had the Power Wagon then, yeah.
And
And then I met her. I was making $6 an hour at the time when I met her. She clearly didn't marry me for my money.
It was that hair. It was
was the
your
hair.
long
Hair was
hair.
excellent,
It
wasn't
was.
it?
Too
It was
bad
on
we can't
point.
show images as we're talking on
I
a
know.
podcast because I'd flash
Yeah.
that image.
He
of
was
my-
like he looked
hair.
like so many Canadian kids I went to high school with.
I mean,
Or kind of like Thor. We could say that. Would
Or
that make you
Wayne's
feel
World.
good? Well, I was
Hello.
I was trying to give
More
you a
Canadian
compliment.
kids, right? Like
Right.
Wayne,
Exactly.
I think it was more Wayne's World.
definitely.
But it was
Wayne.
very early 90s.
Yeah.
Yes, it was
Party on,
magnificent.
dude.
Yeah. So you guys met in high
Yes.
school.
I was in high school.
She
It
was
my
in high
senior
school. We
year.
did not go to the same high school.
Okay.
Well, and fortunately we didn't, because I was kind of an idiot between 15 and 19. It was, I had a rough childhood.
Yeah,
It was, you know, stepdad was
Not a good
out of the
person.
picture from a PFA when I was 15.
Yeah.
And I just kind of ran wild for a while. And fortunately I got to cross paths with this hottie. It was actually a New Year's Eve
Okay.
party.
Yeah.
Her plans fell through, and we had a mutual friend that was part of our group that brought her along. And so the first time I laid eyes on this woman was she walked into my mother's living room.
I heard that story. Yeah.
And I mean, my reaction of course was
Wow.
like swing, but like, I mean, she's just super pretty, and I was, guy code. So it was like, all right, I told all my friends, I saw her first, and my friends respected that.
Yeah.
You respect guy code until your friend gets shut down, and then
That's
you're
right.
good to go, right?
Yeah.
As soon as your friend gets shut down, your other friends
That's right.
move in. But my friends respected that. And
Like a pack of dogs.
yeah, we've been together ever since. So I was 19. She just turned 18. We're about a year and a half apart. So, yeah.
And
so,
what was your first impression of him?
I don't know. I'm just he said, he was kind of an idiot at that time, but that's solely the kind of guys I was dating, so that worked out. Like that was not a turn off. But we just spent
It
time
was to her
together.
dad.
And yeah,
Sorry, Dave.
Yeah, 100%.
He likes me now.
Yeah. But it was pretty quick just to see just his spirit.
Uh-huh.
He had a sweet spirit,
Yeah.
and I was
Yeah.
attracted to that.
Yeah. Yeah, I
It
think even
wasn't the long locks.
I
That
think
was just a bonus.
underneath the exterior, I think anybody that knows you would have known that knows you now knows that probably that has always been there.
Yeah, I was hiding for a long time, but yeah.
Yeah.
Mom taught me well.
Your mother,
Yeah.
I adore your mom. I've never even met the lady, but I just
She's
her
something.
spirit when I saw that video. And she's at Jim's shop.
Yeah.
And she's talking about the starter and the whole thing, and I just immediately felt it because she reminds me of my mom.
Yeah.
And similar ages. You
Yeah.
know, and I'm just like, and then when I got to know your backstory, the things that she went through and the things that she did for your stepfather.
Yeah,
and,
great.
and what all went down for there, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
I didn't think people like her really existed.
Yeah.
That
So
had that level of forgiveness.
yeah, for sure. And for the listeners, I mean, she had 2 kids with him. So my half brother, Barbie and Max, were all successful too. By the way, my mom did it right in spite of all of that. But she just knew that she was just gonna take care of this man as he was dying of cancer, on his deathbed. Years of separation, of course, and the abuse, is long gone at this point. Even for them, I think my younger brother and sister's abuse really began when ours ended, because he got visitations and they were young. Max was like 5 and
Right.
Barbie was like 8, but after years and years later, like she took care of their father, and I watched my mother give the best gift that she could ever give to her 2 kids that take care of their father at the end.
Even though he as a person probably didn't deserve it.
Of course he didn't,
Right.
but I mean, do any of us really deserve forgiveness, if you want to talk about that. I mean, we really don't. And she really was very, kind of following a godlike principle with forgiveness when she did that. And it was just really amazing to see that someone could forgive in that way. Not to be graphic, but seriously, I think it really puts it to it, like literally like wiping his ass type, taking care of him, like, because he had prostate cancer and it was really, really bad at the end. And she did all of those things. And it was, for us, it was weird. And I remember Jake's 25. So Jake was like 3 at the time. And so, this is a man who, I called dad, because I never knew a father. He came in my life when I was 7. My dad died when I was like 6 months old. But this is a man, I watched him as following my mother's lead of forgiveness. I brought my son to the hospital, Jake, and I remember seeing his face, and it was a face where like he realized he missed out on a grandson. It was pretty cool. It was pretty cool. Yep. I mean, it was neat to see this man, who was so awful in the day, broken. It wasn't neat to see him broken, but it was neat to see the barriers broken. And I saw it. It was good closure. It was good.
Closure's important, right?
Yep.
So as you kind of guys came together, how did the life, did you guys have a life plan, or he was just going to be a mechanic? What did you do?
We didn't have a life plan. We wanted to get married like from the get-go. And I was 18 and had to go to college, and so we had to wait, and we're finally able to get married, and he was a mechanic, and he was working hard and took care of us. I was able to stay home and raise our kids and take care of them, and
making that diaper money. Remember that?
He was
before that.
Yeah, that was before. He was working at Pep Boys.
I was at Pep Boys,
another garage, then at Pep Boys, and then took a teaching job so he could have more time with us, a better schedule. But then he was working side jobs to make that diaper. Like, he worked his butt off and took care of us, and then became a teacher. And just what happened with Scanner Danner, like, YouTube didn't exist when we were dating. We just never could have known. So there was no plan.
I am so, what to think that you were a former Pep Boys employee. And this is me not running down Pep Boys, right? But the chain store kind of.
Well, I mean, it carries a bad persona.
It carries a bad business culture, right?
Yeah.
There is nobody's beyond hope if somebody of your caliber makes it to where you are as a standout in our industry, coming from anywhere. So that's my point. You can come from anywhere, and go to where you are,
and you can create that culture for yourself. And it was one where, at my brother's shop, you had mentioned that was where I got my start. Making $9 an hour. I went from $6 an hour to $8.10 an hour.
In what year are we talking this?
This would have been 93. Wow. So I graduated Rosedale Tech, where I ended up going back to teach. But I remember getting a $2.10 an hour raise. I was like, let's go. That was awesome. I mean, I'm still living at home. She's at college, and it was cool. No problem. And worked hourly for 3 years at the shop my brother now owns. And then Pep Boys started building stores everywhere in 96.
Right.
And they were like hiring technicians from everywhere. And they were hiring master technicians at the time in 96 at $20 an hour. Nobody in 96 was paying $20 an hour. Wow. There's so many parts to this story that we could take, but I ended up getting hired at $17.50 an hour because I didn't think I was worth 20. And I knew going into the interview that they were paying $20 an hour. And the guy asked me like 6 different times, well, what do you want? What do you want? In my mind, I'm like, well, duh, $20 an hour. That's why I'm here at this interview. If I would have said those words, Jeff, I would have made $20 an hour 3 years earlier. It was such a huge mistake. So
you had the skill set already that you were.
Absolutely. I mean, I always loved diagnostic work, but I mean, that was where it started. And I was like, I want to be your diagnostic guy. And, they paid 1.2 hours for diagnostics, not the 0.3 that I was ranting about the other day. So 1.2, and I knew how to play the game. That 1.2 was a certain test procedure they wanted you to follow using this Sun 450D, which was a digital storage scope. It was awesome. I still love that. It's still the best ignition waveform scope I've ever used. But you did this complete test on the Sun 450, and you did all the preliminaries, kind of like the stuff we're preaching today.
Yeah.
And they chart, if you had a trouble code beyond that, it was a half an hour per code. So I knew how to play the game.
Yeah.
I knew how to play the game because I knew how to make the money as a diagnostic tech in '96. Yeah. And that's what, that's what I ran with. So, I mean, then from there, I worked for them maybe 5 years, and then I ran into an old Rosedale teacher. Is like, hey, they're looking for an engine performance teacher, and I'm like, sign me up.
So did you have to take any additional training certifications rather than become a teacher at Rosedale?
No, Rosedale did require the ASE master.
Right.
So they wanted that, and they wanted minimum 8 years in the field. Mm-hmm. So those were the two requirements, and I think at the time I had 7.5 years. So they made like an exception for me as a former alumni, and getting the okay from like my favorite teacher ever, Dan Savitko, who was so instrumental in changing my life. And he was like father figure to me. And for him to give me the go ahead was like a big deal for the school. And they offered me like $20,000 less than what I was making. In '96, I was on track to make like 50 grand for that year, which is pretty good in '96. That wasn't bad. But they were in like the low 30s, and I turned the job down. And then Kristen and I sat down and we did the numbers, and I'm like, I need 40. This would have been in 2000. I'm like, I need 40 before I can, because I did the math, like it's 7:30 to 2:15 Monday through Friday. Excellent work schedule. Right. 2 weeks off in the summer, 2 weeks off for Christmas. Like family is what I'm thinking about. And I could take this $10,000 pay cut to do that. It was hard, and she was pregnant with Caleb at the time. Right. So we're like ready to have number 2. That sounds awful. We were ready for number 2.
Baby number 2.
Baby number 2.
Yeah.
And that's when it wasn't the idea. It's so crazy. I have to give glory where it's due, and it's I see God like all through each step and path, because the mobile diagnostics wasn't even a plan. I'm on my way home from Rosedale, on my way home where we live, and I drive past this garage, and I recognize the guy as I drive past. It's my old service manager from Pep Boys. He owns his own garage now. He's like, hey, Paul, we talked, and he's like, hey, would you do some check engine lights for me? I'm like, yeah, are you kidding? And it was like, well, what, first one I did for him, he's like, well, what do you want? I'm like, $20. Like, it was like, that was my diaper money. It was like on my way. It was literally on my way home from work. I'm gonna make an extra $20. And I mean, these were with experience. I always said it's 5 minutes or it's 4. I'm sorry, it's 20 minutes or it's 4 hours. And there's some where there's no in between. It still feels that way today. If I don't know what the problem is in 20 minutes, this is where today we need to stop and test number 1, and we need to increase the number and say, okay, this is where we are, and let's bill for that so this technician gets paid, right? So it's 20 minutes or it's 4 hours. And so it was $20 a car, man, and I'd do 2 cars maybe on my way home, $40 in my pocket.
So when he came to you and said he was going to be teaching, did you feel like that was a natural, like he would be great at it?
Yeah, definitely. And I think, we just looked at it as what a great thing for our family, because Pep Boys being, they were open till I think like 9 o'clock at night, and the hours and stuff like that. So it wasn't like perfect
weekends.
And to have
I made a lot of money on Saturdays.
Right.
I didn't really mind the weekends, to be honest with you.
But to have that schedule, it's just, that's what we valued, is we valued like what an opportunity to have a job like this, to have that family time so he can be around. And so it wasn't like, we knew it was a pay cut, but again, like God provided, just driving home. And then he built a great business, a great mobile diagnostic business. Another thing that was not a plan. Like
wasn't a plan.
Every step of the way, there is no sense of a plan. We've never had a plan.
That's me though. That's my MO. I don't like plans and schedules and calendars and clocks. I hate all of that stuff. I've created a world around me where none of that's very important.
Much to my dismay.
Much to her dismay.
You were the first mobile tech I ever knew of. Right? Because and I'd been on IATN back in probably before Facebook,
Yeah.
so late 90s, and I probably saw it at the end of people's names, but I didn't write, like, it didn't click. It's just like where people's business names were at the bottom of their bio.
Yeah.
I didn't read it.
Yeah.
Right. So when I'm seeing you on YouTube and you're like, there's a pickup truck with a Snap-on Vantage, and, you know, I think you had an old brick at one, like Snap-on brick you had
Sure.
pulled out at some time and some
Yeah.
other things. I'm like, wow, people actually do this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So then it's like, and I'm seeing these old videos and he's making it look like, well, he diagnosed another one in 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And he diagnosed another one, and then you see he'd be in the classroom. And I love the story about how he just started to film the classroom stuff just as a teaching aid for his students.
Sure.
If they missed something in the classroom, to be
Yeah.
able to go back and watch it. If they didn't attend the class, to be able to go back and watch it. Now,
That was the intent.
when
Yep.
did you write the book?
Well, that was along the way. So I would teach the same class when I started in 2000. You know, we would have a curriculum that we'd follow, and we had other books. And, you know, props where it's due. James Halderman was the guy I always chose to use his books to really had really, really great, and he's still a big guy in our industry,
Right.
writing text. He would had really, really great description operation books that students needed.
Yep.
And I still recommend that material for my own guys. Are like, hey, you have all this testing method stuff. Can I get a little bit more background?
On the-
I still recommend James Halderman, all this material he's got. But I just felt like as I'm really in the thick of doing this, especially now the mobile diagnostic business grew to like 20 garages, which was enough for me to, you know, on the way home from work at 2:15. So sometimes I wouldn't get home till 7 o'clock. So I'd work from 2:30 to 7. But I mean, I'm making an extra, you know, at the time, you know, sometimes $1,500 more a month. That's a big deal when you, in that time with a wife and 2 kids and needing extra money so there's easily my $10,000 pay cut.
Yeah.
Easily. It's back. I have it. It's back. Where was I going with that? Oh, the students and filming, writing the book was just because I'm doing these testing procedures, and these are the ones I really feel like they need to know because I'm using them every day. And I just started writing like PowerPoints, and this is like laptops were, you know, you'd be lucky to get like I paid extra for a 10 gig laptop. Think about that today, like 10 gigs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I'm starting to write these PowerPoints, and that's really what it came from. And it's me teaching that same topic. So every 12 weeks, I would redo it again and redo it again and redo it again. And then it went to 8-week programs. So think about that, you know, I think we produced the book in 2011 is when it first came out.
Yeah.
But that was 11 years of refining that material enough to be like, I knew that this is what they needed.
Yeah.
And I knew all the questions that was going to be asked. I often get that. How did you know I was going to ask that question? Like, you answered it. Well, that's what happens when you teach the same subject for 12 years before you produce something.
And it makes you better because you know that time, if that subject, that same question's always going to come up.
Yes.
You just modify your process a little bit on how you teach the subject.
Yes.
And then that they probably don't need to ask that question.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
And that's where the book came from. And then, you know, like you mentioned, I just picked up the camera in 2011 to when YouTube was around. I never really knew what it was. You know, the internet's taken off, and I just knew it was a free platform and my students could access it. And so I started taking the camera with me to show these processes on the car.
Yeah.
And I always liked to do start to finish because my focus was always the student. Okay, I thought the process was equally as important as the fix and what it was. And so let's just turn the camera on. I'll let you hear my thought process. And that was always what my plans were.
Yeah.
And people see a lot more now because Caleb's got the camera on me, and I used to hit, you know, start and stop. I'd set up the shot and make sure that, you know, it would be in more segments. So it might have been more cut in ways than it is now, but it was always the same.
Yeah.
You just didn't see the other stuff between.
I think that's the thing is like Caleb doesn't get enough of the credit for how it flows so well now.
Yeah.
Right? And everybody just thinks, well, it's the same Paul Danner video. It's just Caleb puts a bunch of some B-reel in. You know, he might do a little Photoshop and put a meme out there and all that kind of stuff. And
sometimes we get a little too carried away with that.
But otherwise, there's so much more going on than just that.
Yeah.
Right? But it's your genuine delivery and your approach to the material.
Just fixing the car, man.
And the way you teach.
Yeah.
You know, that's the thing. Like, I rave about you because I've had a lot of instructors in my life, right? A lot of teachers, a lot of college, a lot of and it's just the way, you know, and I used to brag up, well, why does he do it so well? Why is he such a good trainer sometimes when other trainers are slipping? It's because you're a teacher.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's just something about your personality and the way that you get it across, which I think only can come through with the fact that you have lived it and breathed it, the techniques that you're teaching.
I think you loved it too, Jeff. I
loved it too. So it's easy to see why it's been so... It's touched so many people. I mean, we joke all the time, right? You keep saying to me, it's like every damn episode you do.
That's what I appreciate that, man.
You mention me, but I mean, I don't have to mention him. People mention him just because it's like, how did I get into this industry? Well, I saw one of Paul's videos, and then it was like it gave me this, it lit this spark, or, you know. And you've had some people now in the industry that are your former students.
Yeah.
That feels awesome.
It is awesome.
You know,
I keep trying to tell my wife how awesome I am, but she's.
I think she knows. So you, like, we kind of know it's been talked about. You handle the social media for him.
No, I make him sound nice to customers. So if you are contacting us and you get a nice, polite reply, it's because of me. Because
but bless her soul, because
that's not his forte.
She'll say this really nice email. And at the end of it, she'll get a reply, and it'll be like, "Thanks, Paul."
Yeah,
it's like a dagger for her. She's like, "I'm not Paul. Do you see? It says Kristen Danner."
I took all this time to be so polite and offer you all this support.
Because some of the trolls have been ridiculous, right? You've seen me when you've posted a video, and there'll be a comment, and I'll jump on there, and it's like, if we were all in the same room together, I'd have already taken that guy outside for you, right? You wouldn't even have had to, because it's such a thing. But I wish I could, because you just like, you smile away and type and completely ignore it.
Well, I don't have to deal with what he has to deal with, and you know what? I'm just not a fan of social media, and it's because I feel like every idiot in the world feels like they have a platform. Oh. And everybody feels like, but everybody feels compelled to share their thoughts, whether they're helpful or valid, and you just say things you would never say to someone's face, and you just see these comments and you're like, what was your purpose in that? Like that's how you decided to start your day. What are you doing?
What we need, I just thought a business idea, and I really think
you're hearing it right now.
This would be a good like YouTube channel. Would it be Kristen Danner Unfiltered?
Oh, you don't want
that.
Yeah.
No, you do. She's the most witty person ever. Yeah. And if you see some of Caleb's wit, if you ever see it, guess where it comes from? Yeah. This one. Yeah. She's like the godfather of like one-liners and comebacks. So a little bit of sass, seriously, right? Like you would love this part of no one sees this part about her because
it's not good for the brand.
No, it's not good for the brand. But her her initial replies are like, oh, that's so good. Like,
because he'll say, "Hey, hun, this guy just said this to me," and like right off the bat, I have something to say.
Think about it. It's like on point, like one liner. Like, oh, that's perfect.
It's hereditary. I get it from my dad. I gave it to my son. We are a family of smart Alex.
That's good.
Yeah, it's really good. Nobody sees it because then she deletes it or doesn't do it, and then does the very kind and gracious, and does that for me. Yeah.
So that's you keep him in check.
Oh, 100%.
Because otherwise, I think I feel like you would act the same way I probably would.
Oh yeah, right? I want to, and I know it's not good for the.
And you and I've talked about that.
Yeah.
Because it's like, and I, as I sit here now and do this, and you know me from how I was on Facebook and how sometimes I just lay into people.
Sure.
Complete strangers.
Yeah.
Right. Sometimes in a snap judgment thing that I shouldn't have done. You have been inspiring me in so many ways. Just to you and Lucas, the guy in the next room, to shut up sometimes.
Yeah, just let it roll.
Let it roll.
Yeah.
Think about them from a different perspective. What maybe it's the why. The why is more important than the how to me a lot of the time, right? I don't care how you came about what you came to said to me. I want to know why you feel so compelled to say it to me. You know, and that's
helped.
seek first to understand.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So the teaching thing, and then the whole thing, people talk to me, like I sat down with Elijah yesterday, McMillan, and we were talking about him this morning. He talks about your one video, your trip down to, was it Guatemala?
Panama. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, we have some missionary friends. We still support them.
And that's the first time you kind of came onto YouTube and talked about your faith and talked about your devotion. And you know, I
was thinking of my thumbnail that I made for that.
And I could remember some of the people, your feelings of like, I wasn't sure if I was going to put that out there.
Yeah.
Right? Because you know how it can be. People can immediately write you off as some kind of quack.
Yeah.
You know,
I was okay.
Or they say that's not what we're here for. We just want to see you
and
fix
just
cars.
skip
We
to
don't
something
care.
else. Just fix the damn car. I don't want to hear you get all preachy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I understand where both sides are coming from.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Me too. I don't want to throw it in people's face.
But I didn't feel you were.
Yeah, it's just my story, man. It was real.
That's, I think it came across as being genuine. Is that it's like you're not there doing it to get praise.
Yeah, for sure.
You're just making a content that happen to show that. Why am I doing it in Panama?
Yeah.
And not in the back of La Tour? So there's no snow on the ground. We're in Panama.
Yeah.
Right? Why is that? Well, because this is the other part of my life that I do.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And
helping.
I think it's opened up a lot of gate because like we talked last year, Chris Enright, when he met you, that was one of the first things he said to you is, I have so much respect for you because you're a man of faith and you put it out there. You let people know, you don't hide it.
Yeah.
You know, it's so, you know, because like we've talked, you know, you and I come down here and I'm not a perfect Christian. Not that such a thing exists.
Or any of us.
But no. And sometimes the last thing that people might look at me and think is like, he's a person of faith. But yeah, you and I talk, right? Do I sit in church every Sunday morning? No. Do I think of the person at sometimes when I'm by myself doing what I love to do? Yeah. Yep, for sure. I ask those questions of myself. People ask me,
in a deer stand or a hayfield.
That's right. How can you sit there and fish for those stupid little fish when they're not even biting? Because it isn't about the fish at that point. I'm already out in something that's way more powerful than me.
Yeah, man.
That is bringing my center back.
Yeah, man.
All that stuff that God put on me during the week, I fire that outboard up and I shoot down the lake and I start fishing these stupid little green fish, and none of it matters anymore.
Yeah, right.
You know,
it's awesome.
It's
freeing.
Oh.
It's not a burden. It's not
so
rules
important.
and regulations. Yeah. It's freedom.
You don't have to be in the church to be reconnecting.
Yes, sir.
You know? So I mean, I just love that about you because, I mean, I look to so many people in this industry. We're all looking for guidance. We were all looking for guidance. All of us. I don't care what anybody says. When 10 years ago, before this industry started to really have the conversations that it's now having, there were so many of us that were just looking for something. And there's a handful of people out there that brought it. You know what I mean? And to you, it's aw shucks, and you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, I
don't know. I just feel like I fell into all of it, and I just definitely give glory to God for the path I'm on, and you know, I don't know. There's so much we could talk about on that, but one thing I want to make clear is like, your life is not all, you know, great and roses and when you follow God. You know, you can have the worst life ever and still have joy when you follow God. And the example there is with the Apostle Paul, who wrote half of the New Testament, who's in prison and being beaten and in chains, and he talks about this joy. So, you know, these modern day preachers, they talk about, oh, just, you know, accept Jesus and your life is going to be perfect. What? What are you talking about? Now, granted, I feel the blessings in my life, but it's not the formula, I guess, is what I'm saying. I'm grateful for them, and I'm gonna give glory to God for them. But the recipe is not take your Jesus and sprinkle him on your life and now everything's fine.
I remember
I
when
just
you said
don't
that
want
to me.
people to think that.
No.
And granted, my life has not always been fine. You know? So we talked a little bit about that already, and you know, the glory is to him. I feel like that he's been just gracious to me. He says he's father to the fatherless. So, you know, I lost my dad when I was 6 months old, and he's always been a father to me. I think he's got a special place for fatherless kids, and I think he definitely cut me some slack along the way, through my rebellious years, and I feel like he's blessing me even to this day, and
So you guys, as the thing has progressed to where it is now, this I don't want to call it a machine, but this thing that you've been able to bring to all of us, your guys are now kind of moving in a different direction with it, right? Both of you together.
Together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we talk about
I want
that?
Kristen to talk about it.
It's really exciting, and it's again something that God's orchestrated in that there's just, you said about a machine, and that's what happens when you get on this YouTube thing, and you just you have to create and keep creating and keep creating, and people are like, why don't you do this and why don't you do that, and then you see other guys and you're watching what they're doing, and just that, how do you compare all that? And I remember having dinner with a YouTuber, like this was years ago when you had just started, and he was saying, like, at the end of his life, he just wanted a bunch of mechanics to say, like, what a great teacher he was. And I remember we walked away from that dinner and we're like, what the heck? Because that is not, like, at the end of our lives, that is not what we're looking for. That's not what he's ever been looking for, is that, like, praise of men. And it's been a challenge for him to be the one, to be Scanner Danner, because he's just him. So nobody else can come alongside and be him. And it's his thought process, it's his methods. And so how do you keep doing that and still be an active part of your family and be involved? And it's weighed on him for a long time. It's been really difficult. And we just have an opportunity to sort of, I've been saying, just pivot this in a different way where it is not him 100%, and we get to bless other creators by bringing them on and giving them a platform, bless our subscribers by giving them more material and things that he wouldn't be able to necessarily do on his own. And we just want to add that value to the people that support us, and in turn that gives him a little bit more freedom that we're going to step to the side now, where our kids we only have 2 left at home, so I'm kind of retiring from the mom thing. Once they're all driving, I don't know what I'm going to do with myself. But so we get to do that. But we now are in doing a nonprofit together that we're super excited about, and it's really starting to take form, and we're excited to hopefully soon be able to have people partner with us. And we've just seen need all across the world. We get emails, and we're just aware of needs that are there, and how can we use, like, what we've been given? It's not for us. It's not for us to keep. And so how can we give it away? And he's always looking for, like, extra money comes in. Who can I give it to? Where can it go? It's just give it away. Yeah. And so we get to do that together. So we're, I just feel like we're kind of revealing this over this weekend, like what's secretly happening behind the scenes.
The driving force and why we came. We took all business classes because the first time I've ever been to a training event where we haven't taken technical classes, because we see a real need in this field for business owners, for garage owners. Like, I just have this heart for these garage owners. And how they're navigating, and how they're doing their thing, and how they're working 15-hour days, and have huge backlogs of work and can't get it done, and can't find good technicians, and in large part, some of these things can be fixed with how we're charging, how we're billing, how we're I think it's just part of the process. That's why we're here. We took business classes just to see that side, so we can talk about it more and try to be able to help. That's one aspect of our nonprofit. And Kristen, when she named it, she's our president. She's the president of Scanner Danner SD Charities Inc. Yeah,
that's awesome.
That it says helping the automotive community and beyond. So we're here this weekend to hear these things, to figure out. We have this platform that maybe we can just you know, these aren't our own words. Like we really struck a nerve with the last 2 little clips I put out there, and like these aren't our words. We're just reciprocating what we're learning from you guys from these great podcasts. I love what you're doing, Jeff, and
I mean, you know, and we go back to like you laugh at me about how many times I mention you, but I mean, it's like, think about how there's no more powerful and respected person I could have aligned myself to. To say maybe aligned myself to, but to have in my corner.
I'm in your corner, man, for sure.
It's so, because it carries so much credibility and it carries so much respect, you know, that, and if at one point ever I thought that I didn't have his backing, like that he wasn't behind me, cheering me on, I wouldn't be doing this. I would have stopped.
That's awesome.
You know, because
Thanks,
it's
Jeff.
like I could reach out to him years ago and just say, hey, Paul, like, you know, this is what and my story is one of, you know, a very short abridged version is that I've complained about a lot, you know, for a long time and felt a certain way about what the industry did to me. Now, you know, I talk all the time about I'm not at the level where I'm ever going to be the technical guy. Like, I'm not a Mario and I'm not a you where I can teach people.
Me either anymore, Jeff.
Yeah, but I've always had this ability, it seems, that people, when a topic comes up, I don't back away. I go to the fray. You know,
I love it.
You want to discuss something? Let's discuss it.
That's right.
You know, like we're not throwing hands here. Like, you tell me why you feel that way, and I'm going to tell you why I feel a different way. And for whatever reason, it resonates with so many people.
Yeah.
And you saw that.
Yeah.
And Lucas saw that. Lucas saw it from the beginning. Like, Lucas will tell you it so much of what I said when I would just be running my mouth impacts how he feels like he has to treat his staff. He doesn't ever want them to feel the way I felt. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I made the choice to stay in those jobs that treated me like that. You know what I mean? It was the only thing that I knew, but I always kept saying, I see a guy that's not doing what I'm doing, and he seems to be happy, you know, or he seems to be doing it a different way. That can work for other people, right? And you need to go in the directions of a different way. All of us, if you're not happy, pick up your feet, put one in front of the other, and start heading in a different direction. You know, it pisses so many people off when we make that analogy of toolboxes have wheels, right? And you say that, and some owners just like, but the reality is we have a short window of when we're going to maximize what we're going to learn how to do and what we're going to get paid.
Yeah.
And you have to, for the sake of your family, you know, and the people that are important to you, you have to capitalize on that. There's lots of nights you probably want to come home at 2:30 and just put your feet up. What are you going to do? I'm going to go fix more cars.
Yeah.
Right? I come out of a classroom, and you have that revised vigor to. It's actually fun to work on a car again.
Yeah.
You know, like instead of just standing up in front of a classroom, just standing. I shouldn't.
No,
say
you're
like
right.
That. But to go out and get that challenge, get that dirt under your fingernails again.
Fortunately, we ran a live shop, so I got to do troubleshooting with the students live, which was awesome.
But it's not the chaos rush of how many car count would have been sitting outside, right?
Yeah.
So it's your.
It was great.
You know, I'm blessed to be able to be aligned with the people that I've been aligned to. So it's
neat how our paths crossed. You know what I mean? Like, of all the people,
for all the people,
I don't know. I've always, for whatever reason, like, I don't want to say been attracted to you.
Gravitated toward. You're so bad with words.
I was looking for the word.
I'm not a good looking man, so
I think you are. I think the beard's super sexy, Jeff.
But it's always
been.
But
thank you, honey. I need her. You see, she refines me.
Would you let him grow a beard like this?
I can't grow the same beard, man. It's all patchy on my cheeks. It just doesn't grow there, man.
But I mean, it's always been for me that it's just like.
Well, you were real. That's what I could see.
Yeah.
Like, there was no BS behind you. You weren't trying to be somebody you weren't.
No.
You spoke from the heart. I could see that. I recognize that right from the get-go.
Yeah.
And those are the people that I want to spend time with. And you happen to be one of them.
Yeah.
And it's really awesome to, see how our paths kind of keep bumping into each other. And
you know, I'm
proud of you, man.
I'm so fortunate because I'd have never thought that I would be sitting here with you and some microphones, and getting to tell the other side of the Paul Dehner story, right? Like, I would have never thought that would ever happen.
I want to hear the more of the Jeff Compton story too as we go. That's why we stay tuned to your podcast, and we get little bits and pieces of it. And one of these times, maybe we'll sit down, I'll interview you, and then let's hear Jeff's story.
Yeah,
we need to hear these things, man, because you've done something different, and you've come from the jaded mechanic. You were jaded, and you've really seen something different, and you've seen another path. And the biggest thing, I mean, we're not being paid to say these things for these training events, but like, I think the biggest thing with a training event like this is to meet others and hear their stories and network with them. Yeah. And that's what changed your direction. Yeah. You met the right people.
I came here last year, and you and I had talked for years, but I had never met you. Yeah. Until I came to ASU last year. And the first thing I did is I gave you a hug and said, oh my God, it feels like, I felt like I've known him because I have known him.
You have. You bailed me out of that campsite with that freaking brake chamber on my RV. That was a big deal, Jeff. Of course I'm going to hug you.
It's so powerful, right? It's so powerful to so when people rip on social media or they rip on Facebook, you are never going to hear me say a bad thing about Facebook, because without Facebook, none of this would happen. I wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
If I ever shared anything that he ever did in content, and I would share the crap out of his content in the groups and stuff, because so many people didn't know. They didn't know. They didn't go home to YouTube and when my cable would be on the fritz, I'd YouTube something. When I was trying to solve a problem, I'd YouTube something. That's what my generation, it was like we stopped going to the library and just went to YouTube. And there's his stuff that it's like, and there was other people's I shared too. But I mean, it always came back to Paul. Paul's been the one consistent because he's still doing it, and it's getting better and better and better. You've had your detractors. You've had your, the other guy. He's, had that electrical tool. Posted that video that was career suicide for him, the Load Pro.
Yeah.
Right.
He just didn't know how to handle
just go
people.
Away. He's just gone. You know, and I feel bad for that, because that could be the toxic side of Facebook.
For sure, 100%.
And
there's a lot of ego involved. That's
a lot of
ego.
We
all.
That's what
all
I
of us
hear.
Fix-it types have.
Yeah, and that really is. I haven't a phrase that I usually use for that, but there's a lot of ego involved. With a bunch of guys who can all fix things. Yeah. And but there's no reason that you can't be generous, and that's how you guys are. There's not a scarcity of like only so many people can do this or do that. There's an abundance of talent out there, and you can find like your little niche, and like you found yours, and you've each found that.
You put yourself out there on YouTube, and immediately got some flack from people going, you shouldn't be teaching this stuff on YouTube.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't hear that for a while, but right. I mean, it's definitely there. It's still prevalent. I heard a comment tonight from, I just was on a panel at we're here at the ASTE event in North Carolina, and I was on a panel. We were just talking about my rant that I did the other day about where are all the diagnostic technicians, and I heard from someone sitting at a table that there were some shop owners there that were like, he's a YouTube guy, and he's poisoning the industry, and he's giving away information, and I'm just not gonna listen. And that attitude, and it's fine, that attitude is there, and I get it from some angles. There's a lot of YouTubers who do really, really bad things for our industry in the way that they speak, in the way that they make light of certain problems. It's and then feed into the customer's idea that we're all thieves and crooks. So I do get that, and I don't fault that for that still existing. Do you know what I mean?
You have never been that, because it's the same thing. Like and I'm not going to sit here and name a bunch of names of people I like and people I don't, because that's not what the point of it is. But it's like, you have never been about the DIY side.
I haven't. Right? It's always been the student that wants to learn,
and the professional technician. So I mean, for people to just call you a YouTuber,
I don't even like that name either. I don't even consider myself a YouTuber or quote influencer. It's like, man,
content creator.
I use that term now because I don't know how else to describe myself these days. But Yeah.
I just call you an instructor.
Yeah, that's what I am. Like
know?
at its core, you know.
You're not an instructor that's aligned with a parts conglomerate.
No.
You know what I mean?
I'm not aligned with anybody.
Right.
People want to send me tools all the time. I say no. I just don't do that. It's
Yeah.
just not. I do have some free tools, which is
Right.
awesome.
Yeah.
But the only ones you guys see are the ones that I like and I'm using. I'm not using them because I'm trying to sell the tool.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And I remember you talking about that, and we've talked about it before. If it's junk, you don't use it.
Yeah.
And you're not going to tell somebody it's not junk.
Yeah.
You're going to be, your conviction is still, I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's the YouTube thing. You know, I mean,
But there's so much good that came out of it. Is like if those shop owners that made those comments tonight would just understand, like, hey, if you would have your technician listen to me, follow what I'm showing, it's going to make your shop better.
Yeah.
It will. I promise.
Like
You know.
when we sat down, like I got to meet Rich, right? And you got to be on the panel with him.
Yeah.
Rich is another guy that I followed not nearly as long as you, but Rich is kind of going along the same. And I key so much with Rich because Rich is a former dealer tech.
Yeah.
Right. And you've seen me get into some heated arguments with people when they start to make a comment about a dealer tech.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you're not going to say that about me.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. I was
I was
guy.
guilty of that at some
Yeah.
point in time too, because we would see dealer technicians come into the aftermarket and they only knew pattern failures. They didn't know how to. But
And
that's not the dealer technician's fault.
No.
It's
Why
really
would it?
not.
Why would it be?
It's not his fault.
Hello, we
It's the
reward
pay
you.
system and
Yeah.
how it's done. It's just not 0.3 for a diagnosis.
It's another caravan with a stuck EGR panel.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
am I going to do? Am I
Right.
going to go through hook the lab scope up to it every time and look? God, no.
Exactly.
I'm getting paid, if it's retail, I'm getting paid 0.6 for my code scan,
Yeah.
and if it's warranty, I'm getting nothing.
Yeah.
So guess what? It's got an EGR fault. It's getting a valve. And then
Yeah.
I'm upselling as much as I can on top of that unit
Right.
to get my ticket up to where it needs to be.
Right. So you can take home money to feed your family.
Right. So, when guys say, but at the same time, it'd be the next one where I can remember a caravan I had come in and it had a brand new radio in it and it had a brand new turn signal switch. No. Radio and something else. It doesn't matter. But the radio would not turn on. It had a brand new radio in it. Not put in by us. I say brand new, another shop kicked it over and they thought it had a programming issue or something. I'm going through the circuit and it's like, it's missing a power. And I'd had one the week before that was causing an airbag fault. There's a splice underneath the floor pan on the carpet that was Chrysler splices that run on the inside are taped up with good old hockey tape. And then the floor pan's full of water and the splice corrodes. Now, that's in their splices. That was causing an OCM to go offline, occupant classification module. But this is just the same leg is feeding the radio. Well, so that's put in by a shop that put that radio in and then send it over to the dealer to get it programmed.
Right. You guys dealt with a lot, but you separated yourself though, Jeff.
Yeah.
I mean, just hearing that brief thing, you were willing to do some testing, and
Yeah.
there's a lot that aren't. But it isn't just dealer techs.
Yeah.
It's
So when people try to put that label,
yeah, it's
I
tough.
hate the labels,
Yeah.
right? The labels don't work. The labels are just, I've said it, it's the quality of the technician. It doesn't matter where they work. It's how they come to the job every day and decide how they're going to do the job.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Well, he's been everywhere he's ever worked. He's always been the top guy because he shows up with that mentality of like, I need to know why.
And I just wanted to be.
This is not working.
That's the
like
bane of your
to
existence
a
right
fault.
now. Sometimes
He gets obsessed, but no, I need to know why.
It can be anything,
Yeah,
not just cars.
right? But that's why he was. No matter where he worked, he was always the go-to guy because it's just that's how his brain works, and he needs to know, and he's not lazy about it.
Yeah.
So
Was it the dryer or something at the house?
I don't know. I mean, I'm always trying to. I'm always the guy fixing something.
I want to say there was an appliance or something at the house that you talked about.
Well, I definitely fixed the dryer,
Yeah.
and it was a quick little connector. But what didn't show in that is the vent tube was partially restricted, so my airflow was poor,
And the
which is
resistor.
what burnt up the resistor in the first place. So I was all proud of myself and did that post on fixing my dryer, and it was like 50 cents. And
Yeah.
but that lasted like 3 days.
Yeah.
So I didn't follow that up with hey. I didn't because I'm not a dryer technician.
Right.
It's really just not. I wasn't like ashamed of it that it didn't last, but I knew. I was like, wait a minute, that should, because it burned in a different spot, not where I fixed it. I'm like, and I'd cleaned it not long before, maybe a year before, but it was pretty restricted.
Yeah.
And that was what it was.
And we can go back to the principles. There's a reason that HVAC boxes are built where we put the blower resistor in the airflow.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it has to. That's how we keep it alive.
Yeah, that's
you know what I mean?
From burning up. Yeah.
So I love that how you were always like, you can take the principles from
oh, you can 100%
and put it into anything.
I did. Yep. I found the open. Like I couldn't see it at first, but I did some measurements, and it was like, okay, there's my open right there, and it applies to everything what we do, like as Fix-It guys. It's pretty awesome, and it's a part of our field that's not talked about often, which is how much money we save ourselves in fixing things around the house. As we complain about our wages, and we complain about not being paid enough, but when we come home and we don't ever call an HVAC guy or a plumber, or you just name it, as a technician, as an auto mechanic, you're not calling in another trade to fix anything in your house.
Not until you've really made it worse.
And
then you're going to call the professionals.
Yeah,
right?
or until your business is so successful that you just don't want to deal with it. And you can pay somebody to come in and do whatever you need to have done. Like I'm certainly not a carpenter.
No.
I can do it if I watch enough YouTube videos on how to do it. But I'm at a point where I'm not doing that. If I need carpentry done, I'm paying the guy that can do it. Would take me a month. He can do it in 2 days. I recognize the value in it. I hope we're getting there in our trade too. And I know we got to close this because we got that ASOG dinner to go to. But I hope that we can change that in this field. And honestly, I'm glad to be here with you, and I am so happy to be here with my wife,
Kristen.
And this next path that we want to do together. And I want to say this one final thing is like Scanner Danner, what it's become. Is a path that, if I would allow it to, would take me from my wife and my family. This is the hardest thing that we've ever had to do. This kind of success, and when you have that kind of success from a world standpoint, is strike while the iron's hot. Work at it. Let's grow it. Let's make it bigger. And I want those things, but I want something more. And I want to walk alongside this woman that I've been walking alongside of for the past 30 years. I want 30 more. I want to do this with her, and she's excited to do this with me. And so we'll see where God's blessings are on this nonprofit moving forward. And we do honestly, genuinely want to help this industry in any way that we can. And we have a platform to do it, and we want to give God the glory along the way. So that's where we are. That's the shift you talked about earlier, and what we're doing. We are revamping the website. We are bringing other content creators in. We have a foundation that stands the test of time. It really does. Still applies those principles, and so we're going to lean on that and know God's going to bless that area as we walk this path together. And to have her here, I can't say enough about how honored I am to have her here with me.
And I got to close on this, because like you said, we've got to go. It's so refreshing to see a relationship that is as strong as yours, Kristen and Paul, together still after all that years, right? You take such pride in showing, the picture of you and her on the Power Wagon way back when you're high school, and this is still
not just the truck.
So many years later, still together, right?
I'm fatter, but
but she hasn't aged at all.
She hasn't. She's like, yeah, I know.
It's
ridiculous.
It's nuts, isn't it?
It's a lot of grace, and it's commitment. When we got married, divorce isn't an option for us.
But see, and that's the thing, in such a world where it is so common to just give up and quit. Right? It's refreshing to me, because I come from a family that they didn't stay together. Most of my friends, what's the stat now? It's up almost 60% don't last, right? So when I see you and Kristen, and I see, Caleb and Caleb's wife, and I know that's going to be the same. There's going to be a whole bunch of grandkids for you guys to be spoiling and doting on and teaching so much that there's to be taught, taking them to Sunday school, teaching them God's ways, all this kind of stuff. Like that, I'm so happy to have witnessed it, to get to know it, to see it, and to see where it's going to go. Is just like, man, I feel so excited.
We can't take any of this with us. but relationships and people and how we impact each other, like what you're doing right now with the podcast. It's a big deal, Jeff.
Yeah.
I'm proud of you, man. I mean that. I'm proud of you, man.
I learned a long time ago that all that really matters is how you touch the people that you come into contact with.
Because those are eternal. Those are eternal.
Yeah.
Stuff and material and things, and you know, there's a reason why there's verses that say, "Don't tear down your barns and build bigger ones to store all your junk."
Yeah.
All that does is is a path to anxiety and fear and worry as you try to protect your little nest egg.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I'm just done with it. And honestly, SD was the hardest thing that Kristen and I have ever had to deal with. It really has been. And what you guys haven't known over the past few years is how difficult it actually has been. And we've always been super close together, but this was really creating a serious rift in this path that I'm now. It's almost like I'm not letting SD go.
No,
but in my heart and in my soul, it's not mine to bear by myself.
Yeah, you're bringing in people that can contribute and
correct.
help and take some of that burden off of you.
And we have a platform we've built that I want to see God's blessing on that too, and we want to do this together and be a channel of where we can just impact and help other people in any way possible. And we're just looking forward to it. We appreciate you sitting here with us and letting us have that.
Both of you have been such an inspiration to me in so many levels, in so many facets, not just in how to fix a car, but how to live a life.
Thanks,
and that's why you're here, and that's why I'm so happy that we were able to get this done.
Yeah, me too.
It wasn't going to matter if it didn't happen today. It didn't happen. It was going to happen.
Yeah.
And it's just because I want to be able to keep in the loop about what is developing, and if you guys will come back again and keep us updated on how the story changes, and if you ever want to hear my story, we can sit it down, or it might be on the. We might have to put Caleb and I and you in a boat.
I'll take
and
that.
just turn the camera on and we just start fishing for.
Let's go.
You say that, it's a done deal.
Let's go.
We fish for some stupid little green fish.
Absolutely.
And then
as long as we're camping later after we take a boat on the lake. You got some place we can park the boat, set up camp.
Yeah, for sure I do.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. I love yous both. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks.
Thank you,
man.
Hey, if you could do me a favor real quick and comment on, and share this episode, I'd really appreciate it. And please, most importantly, set the podcast to automatically download every Tuesday morning. As always, I'd like to thank our amazing guests for their perspectives and expertise, and I hope that you'll please join us again next week on this journey of change. Thank you to my partners in the ASA group and to the Changing the Industry podcast. Remember what I always say, in this industry, you get what you pay for. Here's hoping everyone finds their missing 10mm, and we'll see you all again next time.